Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you, everyone, to joining the American Council of the Blind for the 11th Annual Global Accessibility Awareness Day. My name is Clark Rockfall, and I am the ACB Director of Advocacy and Governmental Affairs. And for this, well, depending on how you're joining us today, this audio or video episode of the ACB Advocacy Update, I am joined by my co-host.
Hi everyone, this is Swatha and I'm the Kumar from, or not, I am the Advocacy and Outreach Specialist for ACB.
Thank you, Swatha, and welcome. Thank you to everyone who's joining us over social media, as well as the Advocacy Update podcast, wherever you find your podcasts, whether that's the streaming live on the ACB Media Network or via your favorite podcast player. As always, you can learn more about the American Council of the Blind by checking out acb.org. So Swatha, this is airing on Thursday, May 19th, which is Global Accessibility Awareness Day for 2022. Swatha, what is Global Accessibility Awareness Day?
So it's a day to promote accessibility awareness, mostly in digital space, but we're also broadening it to include just environmental access. So just a day to promote accessibility and a day to raise awareness of this access needs of people with disabilities.
Exactly. So Global Accessibility Awareness Day was begun 11 years ago. How much has changed since 2011. I was about to say 2011, but that's not a real number. 2011. And yes, it's the main purpose of, or as we call it, GAAD, Global Accessibility Awareness Day, but GAAD for short, is to promote and discuss and have greater awareness about web and application-based accessibility, because we know that there are still barriers that exist online. And this is a point near and dear to the advocacy that ACB and our members do on a daily basis. But we also know that technology is pervasive and impacts all aspects of our lives. And as Swatha said, today, we want to talk about it more in the environmental access space, because more and more, there is a connection between what we do in the real world and how that can be augmented or served by greater technology access. So Swatha, we're talking about greater environmental access. What sort of access tools, tips and tricks, or O&M skills and services do you use to be able to find your way around with navigation and wayfinding, or for orientation and mobility?
Well, start off with the most essential tool being my white cane. So I use that on a daily basis just to like orient myself and know what like or what's around me. I also have used navigation apps like Google Maps, Apple Maps, Soundscape. Yeah, I've also just used like a basic compass just to know like orient myself direction wise. So say if I'm traveling north along Rayburn Avenue, just like right outside our office, or like north along Second Street in DC. Like I would know that. It would use a compass to figure that out and figure out where I need to, like, to use that in relation to where I am, and to kind of orient myself to where I'm going. So how are you, Clark?
Swatha, I'm so glad that you mentioned a compass. Back when I had more vision than I do now, and growing up active in the outdoors, or there's Cub Scouts or at YMCA camp, I always enjoyed using a compass. At that time, it was more for the novelty of it, but I'm right there with you. Whether I'm using a commercial product like an Apple Maps or a Google Maps, and I've got turn-by-turn directions, or I'm coming out of a subway station or getting off of a bus. I want to know how to orient myself so that I can have a better understanding of my surroundings. So I love using a compass as well. So I can identify, north, south, east, west, and have a better sense of, okay, am I heading north, like you said, along Rayburn? Am I heading south? Which direction is the sun? What time of day is it? And that just helps me build my mental map and have a better understanding of the directions that a navigation or wayfinding service will be providing to me. But also, if I don't have that service, it helps me be better prepared to understand my environment. You also mentioned a white cane, and certainly we have many folks in our organization and of our membership that use a white cane for navigation, but also for greater awareness, so that individuals are able to identify that this is somebody who's blind. This is somebody who is using a cane to be able to find their way, to navigate their environment. Same as potentially using a guide dog, right? We've got plenty of folks who use guide dogs as well. And Swatha, you mentioned another one. You mentioned Soundscape. So we might as well just jump right in. What is Microsoft Soundscape?
So when I've used it, so my experience with Soundscape is limited compared to Clark, but it's like an app. It's an app that uses audible cues to sort of orient you around the space, right, Clark?
Absolutely. So we talk about the commercial off-the-shelf mapping services that have certainly increased accessibility into their offerings, such as an Apple Map, the Google Maps, Waze, things like that offer turn-by-turn directions. But they don't always offer the most complete information that somebody might be looking for. And that's where other navigation and wayfinding services like a Microsoft Soundscape come in very handy. They help fill in those gaps by using stereo sound. So if you have two headphones, two earbuds, or bone conducting headphones, so you can keep your ears open and receive information from the environment around you. This helps you orient, to know the direction of travel, what intersections you're approaching, and much, much more, as we're going to find out here just in a little bit. So Swatha, we're joined by a guest today who has some expertise in this arena, and joining us all the way from Albany, New York, we have Russ Meyer, the Executive Director of the Capital Region Nordic Alliance. Russ, how are you doing today?
Oh, very good, Clark. Thank you for the very kind invitation. Just want to let you know that Mr. Tom Pay has joined us just recently. So look forward to having a very rich discussion with Tom as well. Cnra is very, very excited to be offering its expertise in developing adaptive sports for the visually impaired using the Microsoft Soundscape, and providing those opportunities for individuals, not only here in the United States, but throughout the globe.
Great. So can you describe what you do as the executive director of CRNA?
Yes, we are a Move United chapter, and we're a member of a number of Paralympic organizations. And our sports are our sports of focus are for those with both visual and mobility impairments in cross-country skiing, biathlon, snowshoeing, paraskeleton, and trail orienteering, which is both for those with vision as well as those with visual impairments. So CRNA, as our acronym is, tries to include and try to have as much accessibility for not only those with mobility impairments, but those with visual impairments in our adaptive sports.
And Russ, how are you incorporating accessible technology to make these sports more inclusive? You mentioned trail orienteering, Nordic cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, for example. Share with us how technology empowers you to provide these services and these offerings.
Well, CRNA sports mostly are confined to trails, obviously if you're skiing, snowshoeing, etc. And what we worked on with Microsoft Soundscape a number of years ago when they were in Rochester, New York, at then Disabled Sports USA National Leadership Conference, was to be as open and inclusive for the sports that we already offer to include those with visual impairments. So as I say, trail orienteering is a form of orienteering, which we've talked about at Compass. Briefly, orienteering is finding waypoints in an unfamiliar environment using a compass and a map. And as we had done this with the sighted, we were very, very excited and pleased to have an association develop with Microsoft Soundscape to have the technology to include those with visual impairments. We've also done that with the sport of biathlon, which is cross-country skiing and rifle marksmanship, to where we use guides and assistants to have those with visual impairments cross-country ski, but also use European technology for audio-based biathlon, which includes them in the marksmanship component of biathlon. So we try to look for vendors, technologies, products that can be as inclusive and accessible for those with visual impairments in our sports. And to date, with Microsoft Soundscape, with the flexibility that their product has for both personal routes, as well as the development of adaptive sports, is very, very exciting and promising.
That's great. And Russ, so as an avid Soundscape user myself, I know that I can hear audible information of what's around me. I can use their street preview feature. If I know that I'm going to be traveling to a new area, I can enter an address and then preview that environment and navigate virtually navigate around that environment. And I can also create an audio beacon and either share it with somebody or navigate to that audio beacon myself. But you mentioned recreational uses for Soundscape as well. So how are you using Soundscape to either augment or enhance these services that you're providing to include people who are blind and low vision?
We have worked with Microsoft Soundscape, Clark, to create a type of authoring tool and mechanism to where our interest in forming such waypoint courses can be transitioned into formal both trail-based and terrain-based courses. And we have been approached and a number of recreation therapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists that deal with social service agencies and municipalities that monitor and manage public spaces. And the one thing that they noticed was that there was just a lack of that type of connection with the visually impaired population. So last year we started working with, for instance, Charlotte, North Carolina, Hornets Nest Park, James Boyce Parks. They are have both terrain and trail-based courses and are regularly used by individuals and organizations and teams that want to experience and strive for the same mobility, independence, and empowerment in recreation and sport that the sighted population does. And we have run formal, structured, competitive events for those with visual impairments that have been extremely successful because their desires are no different than anyone else's to excel in sport, to be better in sport. And of course, the Olympic ideal is to be as masterful as you can in situations that exemplify the skills and the attributes that you've learned. So we're off to a very, very promising start with our trail-based. And as I say, Cnra works with the authoring tool, works with providing courses as well as training with a number of agencies that are going very, very well in having more of these accessible to the general public, and in particular, the visually impaired.
And so, Russ, for example, I know that you participated at the ACB of New York State Convention last year in Buffalo, and you were able to demonstrate the how the authoring tool could be used. Granted, albeit in a Buffalo airport hotel parking lot, right? With beautiful fall Buffalo weather, I might add. It was above freezing, but the rain was still coming in at a 45-degree angle.
Correct.
But you were able to demonstrate how you could set up these courses. So can you share with our folks what the user would experience when they start one of these wayfinding courses that you all are able to create within Microsoft Soundscape?
Well, what we do with the authoring tool and the technology that the engineering staff in Soundscape has made tremendous advances in just the last year is to, with the use of Google Earth and various maps all in one platform, we can select precise waypoints in which the person in starting the app will have specific tones that will guide them to that. What we also have the ability to do, Clark, is to add specific annotations. This app and for adaptive sport does not precisely tell you how to get there, but we give you annotations that still involve the decision-making, the problem-solving, to listen to the tones, the sounds, and specific annotations that will have you make the decisions on how best to go from one waypoint to another in completing a course. We can have courses with 2 and 3 and 4 waypoints for youth, for beginners. We have courses 15, 18, 20 points on trail and in terrain that can take the users through beautiful woods. The annotations will explain the beauty around them and what they're hearing. Microsoft Soundscape, as you know, does permit ambient noise to integrate with its sounds and its programming. So, for instance, when we work with athletes that approach water, that cross bridges, go around certain permanent man-made features, the annotations can be very customized to the user as well as to the environment that they see themselves in. So, working with a recreation therapist, working with an administrator, working with the actual users can create courses that are very enjoyable, can be challenging, and add to a rich, empowering, independent adventure.
And Russ, one more question for you before Swatha introduces our next guest. You mentioned the strides that has been made in the technology over the past year. So I'm curious, we said earlier that we're celebrating the 11th Global Accessibility Awareness Day. What technologies could you have used previously to provide this level of support and engagement for participants who are blind and visually impaired in these sports and these activities?
Well, as exciting and as fulfilling as we as a nonprofit feel that the Microsoft Soundscape does bring to a orienteering environment, CRNA has been very inclusive and proactive in talking with other vendors in the country that provide different technologies. We're very open to sharing and including them, as well as we do those with visual impairments. The various technologies that we've experienced that we're very supportive of is the technology for the wristwatch that a company in New Jersey has developed that provides tones when you actually deviate from the course. Obviously, Microsoft Soundscape has the preferable tone that takes you from waypoint to waypoint. Another emerging technology is an insert into a sneaker or shoe that again gives you the type of vibrations and sensory input that keeps you on the course as well. So a number of things out there that can really promote a higher level of independent navigation that is safe and reliable. In our case, we incorporate another program. It's called Strava, that our counterparts in remote locations upload and use Strava to get very hard GPS points that allow us to instantly upload and transition those into the authoring tool for courses. And it's been very efficient and effective and ultimately safe way to build wonderful level ability courses that help to promote better O&M skills, better awareness of the environment. We have many of our athletes and users, Clark, that say it's just a wonderful mindful exercise. It's mindful and it's centering to incorporate the Microsoft Soundscape into their daily activities, not only for personal courses, but as I say, groups that we get together that offer these wonderful adaptive sport experiences that have them right at the center of the event and competition, something that many of them are really looking forward to and do very well with.
That's great. Thanks, Russ. All right, Swapa.
All right, so next up we have Tom Pay from Waymap. Hi, Tom, how are you?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's good to be here. Thank you so much for the invite. I'm all the way from what was today a sunny London, but now is late evening.
Great. So Tom, can you tell us a little bit about your role at Waymap and what Waymap is?
I'm so I'm Tom Pay. I'm the founder and CEO of Waymap, what is the world's most accurate indoor and outdoor navigation system. When I founded Waymap, because I lost my sight, what I found was that I didn't actually lose freedom of movement, but I lost my freedom to explore. And I think I've really identified with the last speaker. And this freedom to explore meant that the number of routes that I was able to memorize and use were quite restricted. So what I wanted was to build a solution for blind people that meant two things. One, that it could operate indoors and outdoors. The second thing was it would operate on your mobile phone. The third thing was that it would operate even if you lost all signals. So if you went into a black spot and you had no GPS, no data signal, no Wi-Fi, anything, it would still work to 1 meter accuracy and 10-degree heading accuracy. That it was available in many languages. But that it became an app. It turned your phone into a very highly sophisticated and accurate navigation device, which happened to talk to you.
And Tom, as we stated earlier, this is the 11th anniversary of Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and you just touched on several technologies that have been used in navigation and wayfinding, just over the years, over the past 11 years. But just big picture in your estimation, how has navigation and wayfinding technology evolved over the past 11 years?
Well, the real answer is that wayfinding hasn't changed for thousands of years. The Vikings used it to navigate and plunder Europe, and Columbus used it to discover America. So what pilots use it every day to land planes. What we've done is we've taken all that technology and using a fairly clever algorithm, we've put it into a mobile phone. But because of what blind people told us they needed, we've made it very, very accurate and very accessible. But it's moved on in terms of how people get around from using Bluetooth. So the old way of doing it was using Bluetooth beacons, and you followed the Bluetooth beacons like a breadcrumb, which was okay. We started out doing it. We did the biggest shopping mall in Barcelona. We had to put 682 beacons into it to get 5-meter accuracy. Today we don't put any beacons into it. We get 1-meter accuracy. So that's kind of how it's come along. Yeah.
Very cool. So how has Waymap kind of improved or evolved since like you founded it or created it?
We started off as an idea. It started out because I was the chief executive of the Royal Society for Blind Children, and 7 young people in the UK said that they wanted to get around London Underground like everyone else, because when they went on a date, they didn't want these stranger sighted guides helping them to get around. It just wasn't cool. And I'd done some research on it. So I said, I'll have a go, fool as I was. But anyway, I put my hand up. We applied and we got a $1 million grant from google.org. And with that, we went around and we experimented around the world, from Sydney through New York, Los Angeles, London, Oslo, you name it, we were there. And we asked blind people what they wanted to get around. And from that, we developed the world's first standard on audio-based navigation for blind people. That's currently an American standard, so through the CTA. And we comply with that standard, which requires you to have up to 2-meter accuracy. And the reason for that is that if somebody tells me to turn left, because I'm a white cane user, but if somebody tells me to turn left in 2 meters, I'm going to think, or 6 feet or 5 feet, whatever. I can visualize that, but I want to be able to make the turn and not hit the wall. Yeah. So accuracy is vital in this thing. So we developed was something that would allow you to know. We know the direction you're facing. So you're talking about using a compass. Well, we grab the compass in your mobile phone, and we take out the inaccuracies in it, because it's a cheap piece of kit, so it's inaccurate. We take the inaccuracies out of it, and we know the direction you're facing to within 10 degrees. And we know with a 99.9999% certainty where you're going to be when you take your next step.
So Tom, talk to us a little bit more about the technology that makes Waymap possible and that allows you to be so accurate with Waymap. You know, you've touched on Bluetooth beacons and how it took so many Bluetooth beacons just to get to 5 meters of accuracy. You've touched on GPS, which is helpful for extra data points in an outdoor environment, but how well does GPS work in the London Underground or other subway and metro stations around the world?
The answer is it doesn't. GPS does not work indoors. It can under extraordinary circumstances, but it's very inaccurate. GPS is, if you're in a wide open field, then GPS is great. If you're in a built up area, then GPS signals are bouncing off walls, and it can vary between 5 and 10 meter accuracy outdoors. It's quite useful. Don't get me wrong. It's very useful. Bluetooth, on the other hand, like some other technologies, where it requires what we call line of sight. So whether you're looking for a photograph to guide you, or you're looking for a QR code to guide you, or you're looking for a Bluetooth beacon, they all depend on line of sight, and they all depend on many other factors. Bluetooth in particular, if they pass through a human being, becomes very inaccurate, because human beings are bags of water, and Bluetooth doesn't like water. So also, they're very costly to put in, and they're even more costly to maintain, because if one Bluetooth beacon falls out, then indeed, you've missed a bit of your journey. So they have to be working 100% of the time for the thing to be effective. So what needed to happen was, so our technology, just to tell you what it does, is that if you can imagine that you're standing here, you've just come out your front door, for instance, right? Waymap is working. Waymap sprays out an imaginary, what we call 5,000 blue dots. And it does that every second. Now, the blue dots are probabilities of where you might be when you take the next step. We know because you've onboarded, we know the length of your step, and we know the speed at which you walk. So it now starts to eliminate dots that go outside of that parameter, and it adds a higher probability rating to the dots that are closer to meeting the parameters of you taking a step that is of a certain length and at a certain pace. It measures the energy that you are dispensing, so that it understands if you've had to change your pace for some reason. So all of the time, these blue dots have been given a probability rating, and that probability rating is compounded by using a mathematical system called Bayesian statistical method. So if anybody wants to look it up, please do. And it gives you an answer which is 99.9999% accurate. Clearly, as you move along, those 0.0001%, they accumulate in inaccuracy. So you get what we call drift. We've then introduced a system called map matching. So when it says turn left, when you turn left, we zero out any errors that might have been in the system. So that means that every time you take an action or you pass a point of interest, then the error is zeroed out. So it keeps you to within 1 meter. So the accuracy goes from 78 centimeters to 1 meter 75, with 1 meter accuracy about 78% of the time. So it's pretty cool as a piece of kit. And it was developed from technology that was used by Hans Blix to not find his weapons of mass destruction. Right? So I guess what it is the world's most expensive pedometer. And just for next year, it will be working in wearable devices such as watches and glasses.
So go ahead, Swatha.
Go ahead, no, you go ahead.
Well, Tom, just ask the question a different way. What is it about current mobile technology that allows something like Waymap to work today? And was this technology available 10, 11 years ago?
The answer is no. It's probably the technology has been built into the mobile phones for about 5 years. When the sensors in the phone. So the sensors that we are using are the accelerometer, the gyroscope, the compass, and the barometer. Now, the first three are for calculating speed and distance. And the last one is for calculating height. So if you take your mobile phone and you lift it off your desk, there will be a minute change in atmospheric pressure, which will be detected by the barometer in your phone. We use that to know if you're going up or down. In other words, we use that to know which floor you're going to get off and so on. Yeah. So was that technology available? Yeah, it's been available for about 5 years, but we're the first company in the world to grab it and use it specifically for indoor and outdoor navigation, and specifically adopted for blind people and soon to be, and also, by the way, it can be used for wheelchairs by using a pod. But and next year it will also be available for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Very cool. So part of GAAD is, or Global Accessibility Awareness Day is awareness. So how do you think awareness plays a role in Waymap, or in getting more blind people independent outside?
Okay. Well, today is Global Awareness Day, when this is being broadcast, and I'm pleased to announce that today we are announcing that our app is going to be rolled out across the entire Waymap transportation system. In other words, across the Washington tri-state area, integrating bus and rail and street level navigation for blind people. It's going to take us until next March to complete the job. At that stage, Waymap will be available to every blind person free of charge. Well, to every person free of charge in Washington. And we're also hoping to roll it out in other cities across the United States next year.
So, Tom, that is the Washington, D.C. Metro Area Transit Authority. Every metro, subway, train line, every train station. Does that include bus stops as well?
Yes. There's 11, I didn't know, but there are nearly 11,000 bus stops in the Waymap area. And so all of those bus stops will be networked together. We will be, we have access to the Waymap transit passenger information. So we will know the next bus to arrive at the stop. We will know the stop that you get off at and where you need to go. For instance, we will know if the up escalator at Braddock Road is out, as it is at the moment. So we can inform people that and make the routing through the elevator. So yeah, it's brilliant. But the other thing that I just want to point out, which is really cool, and and I've really loved what the last speaker's doing with Soundscape, and I'm just wondering, how this might work, is that we can identify waypoints, and we can navigate to waypoints, and we can navigate to waypoints within 1 meter. And we can do that by giving instructions or by giving clues, or by, you know, because you can, the words that are spoken, like turn left, it can be, you can change it into different type of instruction. So, you know, again, there could be use cases for this beyond the just exploring, say, museums or shopping malls and stores and so on. You know, there could be recreational uses for this that we haven't thought about.
Wow. Swatha, what would it mean to you to have a service like Waymap available on all of the metro buses and trains here in the Washington, D.C. area?
I would really like that. I cannot tell you any times I've gotten lost on a metro stop or trying to find a bus stop. So I think it'd be great to like have more accurate directions as to where I'm going, or like have more like accurate map, or like an accurate map of like where I need to go, which stop I need to get off at, which bus I need to take. So that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
And certainly,
the other thing that it can do, by the way, is if that people like Uber and Lyft take it, the cars will actually pull up 1 meter from you rather than 10 meters and across the road.
Now you're just taking all the fun out of it, Tom.
Well, you don't get to yell at the driver, do you? They complain to you, Uber, when they charge you the $25 cancellation fee or whatever.
Oh my.
Oh, wow. Russ, a similar question to you that Swatha posed to Tom. You know, we're here talking about Global Accessibility Awareness Day and the importance for greater awareness of accessibility, the importance of accessibility, and also the availability of accessible technologies. So why is Global Accessibility Awareness Day important to CNRA, CRNA, there we go, and the services and the recreational outlets that you all are providing?
Well, it's particularly important, Clark, because as an adaptive sport organization, working with the International Blind Sport Federation, International Orienteering Federation, these are organizations that are looking for the types of technologies that can increase the number and the diversity and the ability of sports to hold the globe all over the globe for those with visual impairments. And what we're finding is, as more countries have access to, in this case, Soundscape, we have the ability right there to establish the types of communities for outdoor recreation, anywhere from absolute beginners to those that we all hope in the adaptive sport movements, such as Move United and USOPC here in the United States and the International Blind Sports Federation, to again avail opportunities of recreation and competitive sport to those with visual impairments, what is rapidly becoming throughout the world. And it is something that has been sorely lacking, something that all these organizations have been looking for. What exactly can be constructed to provide that access? And we are one. And it's wonderful to hear Tom and his achievements and strides. And just the volume of those people with visual impairments to get out and to independently move, motor, run, compete, win, lose, and everything in between, just like everyone else, is just so very, very exciting. And I think the time has come, and this type of accessibility and global awareness with this upcoming day will just continue that momentum.
That's great. And certainly having access to these accessible tools and technology, creating greater awareness in the general public, but also among our own members and community on what's available and out there to them and for them to use certainly helps our folks get up and get moving. Helps folks be in control as well as more integrated as members of their community, whether that'll be Swatha and me using Waymap to navigate the labyrinth of the DC metro system for purposes of work, going to Capitol Hill, for purposes of entertainment, going to museums, theaters, and shows, or using services like Microsoft Soundscape and recreational courses set up by the Capital Region Nordic Alliance, so that we can get up and get moving on the outdoors, so that we can have fun, explore, compete. And I like how you phrased it, Russ, experience winning and also losing, because that is an integral part of personal growth and exploration. We can always focus on the winning as the fun part, but many times we learn more from those challenging defeats that lead to greater personal growth and enhancement.
Absolutely. We have people that'll do 1 or 2 recreational terrain or trail courses, and when they come in and we tell them their time and they've got their bib on, their very next sentence is, I'd like to go out again because I know I can do it better. I know I can do it faster. I know I can just shave off those types of times that bring more efficiency and more reward to them. And the next thing we do is have them reset the program and get back in line.
That's great. And Russ, where can folks go if they want to learn more about the work that you all are doing with Microsoft Soundscape?
Well, we ourselves do have a website. We have a collaborative position with Microsoft Soundscape, and most certainly my information is on our website and various documents that I'd be happy to talk to anybody about starting programs. As I said, we just came back from the Move United education conference, and many people looked us up and have contacted us, which has been very rewarding to look at embarking on new areas of the country. Right now we're in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and New York. And as I said, we're readily accessible on the internet through our website, that we'd be happy to touch base with them upon any inquiry.
And that website it's all spelled out, Capital Region Nordic Alliance.org.
Correct.
And Tom, wow, I'm still blown away by that big announcement that you made, that the entire DC Metro train and bus system will be made available and mapped using Waymap. If folks want to learn more about the work you're doing with Waymap, what should they do?
Well, first of all, can I just simply say thank you to you guys, the ACB, because you've been in from the beginning of the idea of Waymap. You've helped with the development of the standards, and indeed you've provided volunteers to test it out at the early stages in DC. So if you want to learn more, please go to www.waymapnav.com. That's waymapnav.com.
And Tom, you already dropped a bombshell on us with that announcement. Any other upcoming news or things for folks to look forward to regarding the work of Waymap?
Well, you just watch this space. There is a lot going to happen very, very quickly. But we'll be very happy to come back and share that with you as soon as we can.
Awesome.
Definitely. How about you, Russ? Anything you want to share with anything else you want to share?
Upcoming events for us is some international demonstrations with our partners in the country of Sweden, who have been doing three-dimensional maps and correlating them to Microsoft Soundscape Trello maps throughout Sweden. And we have the World Trail Orienteering Championships coming up in Poland. And we are working to present courses with them to the local organizing committee, as well as the International Orienteering Federation Trello Commission, to get this one step closer to being a summer Paralympic sport.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Wow. You know, and in a couple of years, I imagine we could have both of you back and having a conversation about how your technologies are not being used in, you know, the real outside world, but how these 3D maps and these accurate wayfinding technologies are being used in the virtual environment as well.
I hope it's before a couple of years, right, Tom?
Absolutely. I mean, the level of development is huge. We are working with Verizon on putting our technology onto 5G, and boy, when that happens, that makes a huge difference to everybody.
Well, and when that happens, be sure to come back and share it with us.
Totally.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
Well, Russ and Tom, thank you so much for your time here. Thank you for helping us celebrate Global Accessibility Awareness Day and sharing the accessible technologies that you all are using to enhance the environment around us, but also increasing awareness of how these technologies can help folks get up and get moving and be more active and integrated in their local communities. Swatha, any final thoughts from you?
I just really enjoyed hearing about these apps, and I'm excited about the Waymap being expanded to the Almada area. So just glad and happy it's a great conversation. So
yeah, that's so cool and so exciting, and something that will certainly, I think, other jurisdictions will take notice of as well, right? If DC can get this done, or if WMATA can get this done across Maryland, DC, and Virginia, I mean, imagine the other jurisdictions that can follow that lead and hopefully have an easier time implementing these accessible technologies.
Yeah, definitely make traveling to like bigger cities a lot easier. So
absolutely. So again, we want to thank everyone for joining us to celebrate the 11th Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Happy GAAD, everyone. And again, big thank you to Russ Meyer, to Tom Pei. Happy GAAD all around. And as always,
keep advocating.